2 years after the Fukushima nuclear meltdown, the disaster is still causing problems, and the Japanese government is looking at new ways to address the issue. Fukushima may be eclipsing Chernobyl as the greatest nuclear disaster in history. Public sentiment appears to be against the continuing reliance on nuclear power in Japan, but the government has been slow to move in that direction. Aileen Mioko Smith, the director of Green Action, is with me today to talk about the current state of affairs in Japan regarding Fukushima. Aileen, thanks for taking the time to join me this morning.
Well, thank you for having me.
So it's been more than 2 years since the incident at the Fukushima power plant. What's the current state of Fukushima and the cleanup?
Well, right now, 150,000 people are still evacuated, and the government's trying to get some of them back in. They've decontaminated the land, but it hasn't really worked. But they're rezoning and want people back and try to have things be back to normal, at least partially. But the problem is, of course, the levels are quite high, the radiation still. The other thing they've done is they've set a 3-month deadline for applying for financial loss due to the accident. And so people are in limbo. They don't really know if they can go back, but they're forced to decide what to do. And then at the plant site, it's an ongoing accident, the Fukushima Daiichi site. Just as you remember in Chernobyl, they placed a sarcophagus on top and an envelope of concrete all over the plant so that radiation wouldn't get out. Well, imagine with Fukushima, it's underground. There are leaks happening underground. They really need to seal off underground, but they haven't done it. And so there are leaks into the ocean. Japan has a lot of water, a lot of rain, and even before the accident, there was about 1,000 tons, or 850, there's various estimates, of water underground, going underground under the plant that they were pumping up all the time. But with the accident, those pumps, that whole system didn't work anymore. So there's still so much groundwater underneath, and we've been addressing the fact that it's finally going to get to the contamination, and it has. And so right now, there's above ground a hole in the reactor, a hole in the containment, and, trying to cool it, but still it leaks, and then pumping out the water from there. But underground is this radiation spreading. The levels going into the ocean, about 300 tons of contaminated water is going in right now, isn't as nearly as high levels as right after the Fukushima accident. But the concern is that the levels are going up, and underground, the contamination seems to be spreading. We don't know what the sources are, so it's like a time bomb. And they're going to be trying to pumping out some of that so that all 300 tons don't go out in the ocean. But at best, they say still 12 to 35 tons of water will be going in all the time into the ocean.
That's a lot of water.
So those are the problems, yeah.
So as a result of this, has there been a significant increase in concern about nuclear power in Japan?
Yes. Still, nearly 80% of the Japanese public still wants to phase out of nuclear power and nuclear power. The problem is they've been made to feel that it can't be done right away. And yet, interestingly enough, it's been blazing hot in Japan, but only 2 nuclear power plants are operating, and those will be shut down for maintenance in September. So we'll be back to zero nuclear power in Japan, except that the Abe government wants to restart the plants. That's 50 plants involved, and they're trying to restart as many as possible. But there's a lot of opposition. It's just that people feel, how are we going to end it right away? And that's what's really difficult. But nuclear power is a real roadblock towards, improving the energy situation in Japan, better energy services, more community power, jobs that will come with conservation and renewables. And it's like stopping all of that from happening because we have this sort of program that's in real trouble. We're still earthquake prone. And with tsunamis and everything, we shouldn't be restarting these reactors. But it's still there, and the government wants to restart.
Now, you mentioned the government. What about the government's response? Are they continuing to try to work with nuclear technology as a power source, or are they kind of moving to other options?
No, they want to restart. It's just that they know that the public will is that it wants to, majority of people want to phase out nuclear power. But, they're telling the public, look, we still need it, and we're going to restart if they're found safe. The Nuclear Regulation Authority is a new safety regime or nuclear regulatory regime that's been set up. It's supposed to be independent, and they seem to be much better than the former regulatory regime. At the beginning, always, they asked really good questions. They demand of the electric utilities, but after dozens and dozens of closed-door meetings, they come out completely like wimps, and they kind of keel over, roll over, and let the utility do whatever they want to. That's been the track record so far. So we're really concerned because now there are 12 nuclear power plants that the utilities have applied for restart, and so we're going to see if that new NRA regulatory authority really is going to judge those applications properly. And, of course, the big problem also is now evacuation in the event of an accident. We know now that we need much better evacuation plans, and those have not been set up all over Japan. It's required to have at least 30 kilometers, but probably much more of people will have to evacuate if there's an accident again in Japan if nuclear power restarts. And so that's a big concern. Like, I live in Kyoto, the famous historic capital, and even Kyoto City looks like if there was an accident in the vicinity of nuclear power plants nearby, we're 60 kilometers away, but we will have to maybe be indoors or have to be moved. I mean, this then involves huge numbers of people, and there's a lot of concern. And, of course, we're earthquake-prone, so we shouldn't be having these nuclear power plants. There's always been an estimate on earthquakes and the danger, and right now it looks like they're trying to do the same thing, underestimate earthquake dangers again, and restart nuclear power.
Well, as you mentioned, it's a significant concern to many in Japan. I'm speaking with Aileen Mioko Smith. She's the Director of Green Action. Aileen, we're actually out of time this morning, but I wanted to say thanks for taking the time to join me. Hopefully we can talk again as this continues to develop.
Okay, I hope so. I hope we don't restart. We need international experts, voices from abroad saying that, and also don't restart nuclear power. We don't want to, cause damage again to the rest of the world.